It is Monday, May 13th, 2019. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of coin metal. And it was a very early get your ass kicked at Jiu-Jitsu Monday. I did go into the early morning class, and yeah, I really didn't like it. Meaning that, it's just too early. I have so much trouble getting out of bed that early, and, so when I got there, I was only halfway into it just because, it's like, I've been pushing myself that, I need to do more than just go through the motions, and so that's what I tried to do this morning, and yeah, it was productive. We did a lot of work on passing the guard, and also guard retention. I seem to have a little bit of trouble, or seem to be going through a little bit of trouble, where I keep ending up on my back, and unfortunately staying there for entirely too long, and it's really unusual for me. I think part of it is because I'm feeling more confident about trying to actually go for submissions, and I've been staying locked into getting the submission too long, and I don't know, all around I've been feeling like my jiu-jitsu's been improving quite a bit. I had an interesting encounter this last weekend as well. Did the fundamentals course, or class rather, and a little bit of open mat shortly thereafter. And I'll tell you what, the kind of progress that I've been feeling lately has been, it's trips me out really. And what's weird about it is that I've still had some sort of resistance to going. It's like, what excuse is there for even maintaining it? I'm having a great time when I'm there, and I'm feeling like I'm finally starting to get somewhere. And so, it feels odd to me that I should have any kind of resistance to it at all. Where I'll get that, oh gosh, I'm feeling like leaving because, I'm tired, or, I'm out of breath or whatever. I keep having this like urge to want to leave earlier than I can actually put in. And, I have to watch out though, because the fact of the matter is that my brain will drive far harder than my body will. With regard to if I can put in the time, I will put in the time. It's like I tend to push myself really, really hard physically when it comes to stuff, and so for me to back off at all, the only reason I do is because I'll push myself so far that after a while I start picking up injuries. Where somebody catches me on my arm or whatever because I was too tired, or, I wasn't paying attention to what was going on. I landed the wrong way because I had a brain fade or something in the middle of a movement. And so it's like there's a really fine line to hit, where and I don't think I'm hitting it yet, but I think if I were doing, like, if I did a 2-a-day today, to me, with the way I am right now, I think I would have had a little bit of trouble with regard to getting through the class without getting injured, because I'd already be exhausted from the morning class, and I am kind of exhausted from that. It was really targeted. It's one of the things I noticed about doing the early morning classes, because there are so few people there. It's me, and there's the guy that I'm training with, and that's it. There's nobody else there. So, I don't have to worry about waiting for the instructor to be able to get back around to me to, help correct me in a movement or something like that. The instructor is right there, and I'm working with him on the movement because he's the only other person in the room. And so, like I said, it's a really condensed style thing. It might as well be a paid private, and I do get a lot of value out of it. And but at the same time, I'm finding more and more that I give a lot of value, and as a matter of fact, more value than I think I do. And what led me to that is it seems like the last week or so that the people that I've been rolling with have been really appreciative of the level of resistance that I'm giving them, and I know it's because we've got Subleague coming up. I can't remember if that's this weekend or next weekend, but there's this really big tournament that happens every year. The Subleague Qualifier 1, and then there'll be Subleague Qualifier 2, and then of course there's the finals. And I don't know, I'm still at a point now where I'm not entirely sure that I'd be able to compete, but I'm at least providing a decent amount of resistance for my teammates. You know, I think one of the reasons why I've been kind of off lately with regard to my jiu-jitsu is I just haven't had enough time to warm up before I go in. And this is a trick I learned probably a year or so ago when I would get on the treadmill and run for like 3 or 4 minutes before I went to jiu-jitsu. I always had like this threshold point where, you know, I would breathe really hard and then like at one point I'd feel like I was like practically drowning, you know, because I couldn't get the oxygen in fast enough. But if I could get past that point and relax for just a moment after that, my endurance would just go. And I mean, when I say go, I mean I would be able to just go and go and go and go. And it seemed to me like there's like a buildup of anxiety or something like that, and that the sooner I could work through that, or the faster that I could work through it, by the time I actually got to where I was actually going against other people, my body was calm, my mind was calm, because I'd already burnt through the anxiety, and not calm in the sense of like about to fall asleep or, you know, something like that, but I mean more in the sense of I've already gone through the rough part, all right, and now it's just time to pay attention and you know, get through the rest of it. And so, like I said, I feel like there's that point where I feel like I'm drowning, and if I can just get through that really fast before I even go to jiu-jitsu, I find that my body is I'm more locked in with my body, you know, and I feel like it's easier to think of the movements to do to get out of or get into a position that I'm trying to get into. And so, you know, this last week I haven't had enough time. You know, just I've had other things that I've been doing around here, and that's been locking up so much of my time that getting to class on time has been a challenge enough, versus getting a warm up in, you know, getting a nice warm up in, nice 10-15 minute warm up, and then going to class. I think this week will be a little bit better, just because I don't have that thing that was sucking up so much time that I'm not really being all that clear about. But anyway, it's pretty much done, so I don't have to worry about losing all that time just trying to get ready for class, and I'll probably be able to get in a little more time for warm-ups. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and throw down into some music, and as far as what we're going to get into today, man, I got so many tabs open. I just started closing a whole bunch of them. I think I had like 15, 20 of them that were stories that we just never got around to, or actually ones we got around to and just never closed the tabs for. So, anyway, as far as what we're going to throw down to, I haven't picked anything out yet. You know, I haven't done any Dark Angel in a long time, but you know, I would like to do that, but today is kind of a special day on the markets. If you've been paying attention, it's been pretty vicious out there on the old Bitcoin US dollar exchange rate. And so here it is. Body count, the ski mask way. First dance here on Coin Metal. And that was System of a Down with Prison Song. They're trying to build a prison. Well, maybe not necessarily for you and me, but I think the the noose is drawing tight and the door is closing shut on Bitfinex and Tether, at least some sense of them. It's a really unique situation because like Binance, Bitfinex and Tether and iFinex, they're in a bit of a regulatory gray area pretty much all the way around them. It's like a big moat of grayness, between what the law says, what people can actually do, both legally and illegally, to try and bring some sort of resolution to the situation. But it's funny to me to see the thing drag on as long as it has. I think if we were talking about a system that was a little less robust than crypto, both from a legal standpoint and from a technological standpoint, if we had something that like e-gold or something to that effect, where it wasn't as diffuse, shall we say, and as hard to grab a hold of as crypto is, that we would have seen, I think we would have seen a much quicker resolution at least. Anyway, I got this article here. It's on Coindesk.com. Bitfinex and Tether ask court to loosen the NYAG's restrictions. And this is authored on May 13th, 2019 by Nicholas D. So yes, penis. Tether has asked a judge for more leeway to use its cash amid the New York Attorney General's investigation of the stablecoin issuer and affiliated crypto exchange, Bitfinex. According to new court documents filed Monday, the attorneys for each side failed to come to a consensus on what, precisely, Tether should be allowed to do with its holdings. The NYAG's office wants to prevent, quote, any affiliated entity from touching funds in Tether's reserve and a 90-day injunction. On the other hand, attorneys for Tether and iFinex, the parent firm of Bitfinex, want a 45-day injunction, and for affiliated entities that want to fairly redeem Tether to be able to do so. I think that's a decent request, as long as it's not the corporate entity of iFinex liquidating ahead of all of us. Let's see here. On the other hand, attorneys for Tether and blah, 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 able to do so. The case began last month when the NYAG secured a preliminary injunction alleging Bitfinex covered up the loss of $850 million by borrowing from Tether's reserve. The companies have overlapping management and owners and apparently books. A New York State Supreme Court judge ordered the two parties to clarify the order last week. In a letter to the court Monday, iFinex's attorneys wrote that without waiving their previous motion to vacate NYAG's ex parte order entirely, they would agree to certain changes to the preliminary injunction. The key point for the crypto exchange appears to be that it wants to be able to use its stablecoin reserve funds, including for investment purposes. Quote, if Tether simply held the proceeds in cash, the company would not earn the money required to fund its operations, Bitfinex's attorney said. Earning interest. However, in its own letter to the court, attorneys from the NYAG's office said that, quote, bona fide holders of Tether should be able to redeem those tokens for cash, as Tether has long represented to the market, adding, quote, further, the OAG's proposed modifications do not restrain Tether from placing the reserves in legitimate interest-bearing or similar cash equivalent accounts, as the OAG understands Tether to have previously done. Tether argues that NYAG has no basis for cutting off the ability of Tether holders, quote, who happen to be affiliated with respondents, including Tether employees, to redeem USDT, and that as a result, the NYAG's argument presents, quote, a gross overreach particularly given that it is not actually a regulator. NYAG's attorneys say that they aren't opposed to Tether employees being paid, but that they want the company to pay its employees using transaction fees rather than reserves. Both parties submitted proposed modified orders, which have similar third subparagraphs, but which clearly demonstrate the differences of opinion in subparagraphs 1 and 2. Judge Joel M. Cohen, who is overseeing the case, will likely schedule to have a hearing to reconcile the different proposals in the coming days, though it was not immediately clear just when that would be. Yeah, I think that I think they're going to end up waiting for a little while. I think the NYAG's office is really overstepping their bounds. And I heard today somewhere, and I don't know if this is just a rumor or not, I'm going to have to look it up, but supposedly Ripple has a bit license? How the fuck did that happen? You know, this is a coin that we know is not a cryptocurrency in the traditional sense, and yet they're able to get a bit license when Bittrex, the fucking one of the star jewels of altcoin exchanges out there, certainly one of the longest, oldest running, and yet they can't get a fucking bit license with the NYDFS's hand halfway up their ass for what was it, 4 years? 4 years. And no bit license for you. But Ripple, we have no idea how many there are. We don't know if they're a company or if it's a security. It's not a mined coin. We can't mine it. But they can get a fucking bit license. You believe that shit? I mean, really, if you don't want people to think of you as a mafia, you probably shouldn't act like it. And so, yeah, the NYAG's court case against Tether, I don't think it's appropriate, honestly, and I don't think their actions against Tether are any more appropriate. You know, in the long run, they were going to end up getting burned anyway. I think that at one point or another, their little scam would have other kerfuffles in it. Aside from any issues with regard to the NYDFS or any regulatory body out there, the simple fact is that Tether and other stable coins, in my estimation, are nothing but a way to divert actual demand for US dollars in Bitcoin. And allow me to explain what I mean there. When you're trading your Bitcoin for a Tether unit or a unit of Tether, you're not actually buying it. I mean, you're not actually selling your Bitcoin for dollars. You're selling it for a proxy for dollars, because for whatever reason the exchange in question doesn't have the appropriate banking or whatever. And so when you do that, the demand that you're expressing there for US dollars isn't actually affecting the price of US dollars in Bitcoin, because it's not being experienced. Someone with US dollars on the other side of the exchange rate is not getting Bitcoin. If you were exchanging directly with them, they would have less US dollars and more Bitcoin, and you would have more US dollars and less Bitcoin. But see, that doesn't happen when Tether's involved. Because what happens is when you sell the Bitcoin for Tether, there's no real limit on the number of Tether that can be in existence or can be accounted for in the exchange. You know, we talk about it all the time, you know, that Tether isn't actually backed one-to-one. But what we don't talk about or have yet to discuss very much is the possibility that exchanges are operating on fractional reserves of Tether. And so, again, this is a way that demand for US dollars and other fiat currencies from people that are holding cryptocurrencies is being deflected. It's being shifted away from the market at large and into these little quarantine corners run by an entity or entities who have total knowledge of what's going on. And of course there is the association with like the Omni chain and other similar projects that are like side chains off of Bitcoin or built on top of Bitcoin, which I consider to be a mistake. But that's just my feeling on there. Anyway, in the long run, we're going to be using Bitcoin as money. And in the meantime, though, we are going to experience market distortions by proxy of having proxies for US dollars and other fiat currencies being exchanged instead of the fiat currencies themselves. And that I believe is going to come to an end at one point or another too. That the dissimilarity between how much Bitcoin there are in circulation and how much, I think the offset that I'm talking about, where the market isn't experiencing the loss of US dollars for the gain in Bitcoin, because of that it will create a asymmetry further up the line, like with mining, where all of a sudden they're not able to mine profitably anywhere and not even speculatively into the future, and they're going to be sick of going on IOUs. The entities that they owe for electricity and hardware and whatnot, they're not going to be taking those IOUs into the future. They're not going to be taking promises of Bitcoin being mined either. Simply because you're not going to be able to mine enough Bitcoin at the current prices to be able to pay them back, ever. Now, the price has gone up significantly recently, and is probably still climbing through the roof, or just taking a small hiatus and taking a little bit of break. I don't know. I'm not watching it that closely. But those are flashes in the pan. I mean, there were several entities that went out of business with regard to mining in the interim. Between the last spike that we had and now, they've been waiting quite a while for some significant profit, and it never really came. And their bills came due, and they got margin called, in essence, and liquidated. But this too, I believe, is part of the process of kicking people out of the digital transaction realm. Making it to where it's only a bank-held monopoly again. However, I believe with the power of cryptocurrencies that'll never really come. I think that the profitability on smaller coins will go up. And I also believe some of the attributes that they have are going to prove very, very useful. There seems to be this innate fear of privacy-related coins, such as Verge or Zero Cash or Monero. There's a lot of fudding going on concerning those. But the FUD is actually coming from regulators these days, where they're looking at the fact that Bitcoin, while not being entirely identifying, there's efforts to change that. As a matter of fact, we're going to get into that here in a moment. But they are trackable to some extent, whereas some privacy coins are especially difficult in this aspect, that they're not as easy to track. And when it comes down to it, it's all about taxation and who thinks they're due some amount of money that was exchanged from party A to party B that wasn't really entitled to anything, but because that perception still exists that they're entitled to some of our commerce, no matter who we're doing it with and whatnot, there's this expectation that they can continue to exert that kind of will. And we've seen a little bit of crackdown on the darknet markets as of late, and that's much to our chagrin, of course. However, I don't believe the effort to transact outside of the system at large is going to go away. As a matter of fact, this was expressed by Representative Stevenson, I think it was. I can't remember his last name exactly, but I think that was it. Anyway, there was this representative relatively recently. He came out and he's like, dude, Bitcoin's gonna, they say that they're trying to avoid taxation and get around embargoes and sanctions and challenge U.S. power abroad. And I said to this guy, hey, it's not our fault that you pegged the entire might of the United States on how you distribute U.S. dollars, or Federal Reserve notes as I called them. And so it's one of those things where, we've got a lot more tools in the cabinet than that. And the fact that you're so worried about a $200 billion market cap industry versus the outstanding debt of the United States, it just tells me you're not living in reality. I mean, you're not really terribly concerned with it, at least. And I'm trying to find this fucking article. It always happens where I'll get up to where I want to talk about it, and the damn thing just goes missing on me. Missing in action. Anyway, so we went and we covered Tether and all that, but I do have some other stuff with regard to institutionals and the uneven spread of permissiveness when it comes to finance with regard to the legacy finance entities like Goldman and whatnot and others. And so I got this article here on Tribetica.com. Fidelity is set to roll out Bitcoin trading over the coming weeks. And this is actually authored on May 7th, 2019. I think I have a newer one about this somewhere around here. I'll sort it out during the next music break. Anyway, here it is. In addition to launching a custody service, Fidelity Investments appears set to debut Bitcoin trading for institutional clients. The news comes amid reports of Ameritrade and E-Trade quietly testing Bitcoin trading on their respective platforms. $2.4 trillion Fidelity targets Bitcoin trading. According to Bloomberg, inside sources say that Fidelity Investments plans to launch a Bitcoin trading platform. Reports say that the service will cater to the firm's institutional clientele and not be available to retail traders. Commenting on the matter to Bloomberg, Arlene Roberts, a spokesperson for the company, said, quote, "We currently have a select set of clients we're supporting on our platform. We will continue to roll out our services over the coming weeks and months based on our clients' needs, jurisdictions, and other factors. Currently, our service offering is focused on Bitcoin," indicating that they're probably also testing altcoins too. Fidelity Investments with asset under management currently north of $2.4 trillion could potentially open Bitcoin trading to its over 27 million customers. Such a move would provide further institutional exposure to the top-ranked cryptocurrency. Quote, "Abigail Johnson has to do something with all the Bitcoin she mined. Fidelity will offer cryptocurrency trading within a few weeks." Oh, that's pretty saucy, actually, because I talked about that, I think it was on Friday or Wednesday, that Fidelity themselves had been mining. Anyway, continuing. Back in 2018, the company announced the launch of Fidelity Digital Assets, a cryptocurrency custodial platform. As reported by Bitcoinist on Friday, May 3rd, 2019, a research survey commissioned by the company also showed increasing institutional appetite for cryptocurrencies. Mainstream institutions flock to Bitcoin trading. Fidelity will be joining an increasing pool of institutional players beginning to offer Bitcoin trading. Within the last fortnight, reports emerged of prominent brokers like TD Ameritrade and E-Trade getting ready to offer Bitcoin trading services. Among all three companies is about $4 trillion in asset under management, and all of them want to go into the Bitcoin trading business. Makes comments like Bitcoin is a gamble seem ill-informed at best. Unlike E-Trade, Fidelity's plans appear to be tailored towards institutional investors only. As reported by Bitcoinist, E-Trade plans to roll out Bitcoin and Ethereum trading to its over 5 million customers. These reports come at a time when Bitcoin is enjoying a positive run and potentially increases the optimism about the asset class. Bitcoin is up more than 50% since the start of the year. Now, let's see here. The top-ranked cryptocurrency has followed its positive price run in April 2019 with a strong start to May so far. Even with the Tether Bitfinex $850 million case brought up by the New York Attorney General hasn't caused any significant dent to Bitcoin's upward momentum. I think it's kind of funny that we should be seeing this kind of expression now, given what we've previously seen with regard to the value of Bitcoin. But it's funny to note that as soon as Tether gets in trouble, the price of Bitcoin starts shooting up through the roof. Again, I think this is because more of the market is actually shifting to a market of US dollars versus Bitcoin, not USDT versus Bitcoin, which is what the determining exchange rate has primarily been for the last 2 years. I think the fact that they can't just keep turning around their Tether and turning around their Bitcoin, that they're losing out on the churn that they're able to do with it. And that's probably one of the reasons why they're bitching right now, is because they got all that liquidity that they used to churn with, and they can't do anything with it because it's locked up in safes that they don't have any access to, or accounts that they don't have any access to. Yeah. But anyway, I wanted to dive a little bit further into this Fidelity thing. And this one's on Bloomberg.com. Fidelity will offer cryptocurrency trading within a few weeks. And this is by Matthew Leasing. So yes, penis. May 6, 2019, so kind of old. Yeah, let's go for it anyway. Fidelity Investments, which began a custody service to store Bitcoin earlier this year, will buy and sell the world's most popular digital asset for institutional customers within a few weeks, according to a person familiar with the matter. The Boston-based firm, one of the largest asset managers in the world, created Fidelity Digital Assets in October in a bet that Wall Street's nascent appetite for trading and safeguarding digital currencies will grow. It also puts Fidelity a step ahead of its top competitors that have mostly stayed on the sidelines so far. The firm said in October that it would offer the over-the-counter trade execution and order routing for Bitcoin earlier this year. Fidelity would join brokerages E-Trade Financial Corp and Robinhood in offering cryptocurrency trading to clients, though Fidelity is only targeting institutional customers and not retail investors like E-Trade and Robinhood, said the person, who asked not to be named, discussing private matters. A study released by Fidelity on May 2nd found that 47% of institutional investors think digital assets are worth investing in. Quote, "We currently have a select set of clients that we're supporting on our platform," Fidelity's spokesperson Arlene Roberts said in an email. And yeah, I think that's about as far as we really need to go in this thing, because basically it's kind of a repeat of what we just covered. But yeah, the interest by institutionals in cryptocurrencies has been persistent, pretty much since about 2012. every day that Bitcoin continues to exist and continues to operate, it's I think it's kind of a miracle to them, really, that they look at it and they're like, this thing, it's still standing and it's not going away, And they've probably seen every other flash in the pan that's come along and thought, oh, this is going to be it, and it never was, like e-gold or other attempts to free ourselves from the Federal Reserve System. And they, again, because the rope's been yanked and you come back down to earth on the matter, they just lose their taste for it. And I think by now they're a little bit, or at least the impression they give everybody else is that they're a little bit apathetic to the idea that cryptocurrencies are going to do what? Oh yeah, bullshit. It's not going to do that. Only because they've had the opportunity to see so many flashes in the pan. Nonetheless, I think this one is going to be a little bit different. And the whole institutional interest thing, I think it's kind of humorous, really, because what good is it going to do that institutions are interested in it? I mean, other than the fact that they'll be providing a little bit of hash power with their mining experiments, and they'll probably give you some cheaper access to money, not necessarily. Their involvement really doesn't do anything for you, especially not considering Bitcoin as a means of transacting monetary value in and of itself. Not in a betting kind of manner, but you're paying for pizza or coffee or something like that, and you're able to pay with Bitcoin. That at least is the dream. And I think that a lot of these institutional players imagine that there'll be something like central banks, or that people in their position will be something like central banks, lightning network hubs, that are conducting transactions for millions of customers and collecting fees on all of them, and basically being in the same position that they've been in before. I think where it's different, though, is that we are the network. And because we are the network, that's why Bitcoin has any value to us. Because, again, we have to turn over the Bitcoin in order to, pay for electricity, new hardware, so on and so forth. And we have to exchange it back to US dollars for that, or other fiat currencies at the moment. But in the longer term, I think that we're going to be looking at that interface between and seeing the US dollar and other fiat currencies as just another third party. And Fidelity as just another third party. And the NYDFS as just another third party. None of which actually need to be involved in our transactions, but are seeking desperately to involve themselves in our transactions. But invariably, their involvement has a cost. A real world cost. It will invariably be more expensive to do it through them than doing it on your own. So tell me, if you're looking out on the cryptocurrency market and you're seeing that none of them allow you to directly interface with, say, the miners, like when you're buying Bitcoin, you're not buying it from the miner, you're buying it from an exchange. And so the price you're paying, it's not necessarily helping the miners. Not necessarily keeping them interested in mining. And if they don't have any interest in it, and you're not mining and you don't have any interest in it, why do you have any interest in it? This is what makes cryptocurrencies so different from fiat currencies. Is because if at one point or another you determine that you have absolutely no control and no means to participate in the market at large in any meaningful way with Bitcoin, that you will either switch to a cryptocurrency where you can, or you will create your own. The genie that everybody keeps mentioning that's out of the bottle and all that, it's the ability of the layman, you, to create your own cryptocurrency and be Jerome Powell. That fucking genie is the one that's out of the bottle. All you need is a piece of hardware that's more advanced than 2009, when we got all this shit to work on consumer grade hardware only. If it's more advanced than that, then you could fucking mine with it. It doesn't have to be an ASIC miner. And if you're not interacting with any currencies that are mined with ASICs, or fiat currencies at all, but you're still able to move monetary value or equivalent thereof, because it does actually take your miner hours and hours and hours to mine it, regardless of what it is. Because it's actually work that you've done, you're going to want some sort of recompense for it. And if you're not the only one doing it, then there's a market, because there's somebody else out there that's doing it too. And the potential market is global. Even aspects such as borders, like, you got Russia talking about how they're going to sequester their entire fucking country out of the internet, or purify the internet within their country. Fuck you. You'll do no such thing. There are people that want shit within your borders that's made outside of your borders, and there are customers inside your borders that servers outside your borders want to service. And as long as that dynamic exists, your fantasies of having some sort of digital utopia or fucking digital gulag are not and will not be. Even in places that have really, really stringent controls on their fucking internet, like China and North Korea, they're finding ways to participate in this crypto economy. Do you have any concept of how powerful that is? And they're not doing it on a nationwide level, they're doing it on an individual level. This is why when people talk about the whole, Russia collusion scare and all that bullshit, I don't pay any attention to it, because I know it's just as likely that the whole thing is being done by a bunch of fucking 15-year-olds in the middle of Uzbekistan or Rostock or somewhere else, some other semi-autonomous zone that has fucking internet access, and a few kids that know how to sling some code. Not some, draconian government doing some major campaign against the United States or something like that. No, a bunch of fucking kids poning your fucking server all day long. That's the reality, kids. That's where we're living. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into some music. And as far as what to go with, though, here it is. 6th in this light here on Coin Metal. And that was Overkill with Last Man Standing. It was off of the latest contribution of theirs, Wings of War. If you haven't had an opportunity to check that out, I strongly suggest you rectify that. Anywho, I just wanted to make a quick comment on something. I saw something here. Apparently there are some Holocaust deniers left on the planet, and I guess they were like doing some sort of march in Rushville, Arkansas, and on May 11th. Here's the thing. Do they sound reasonable to you? Does their message, if they're chanting anti-gay or anti-Jew or anti-Islam or anything like that, is what they're saying, does it make sense to you? See, to me, they just look like a bunch of fucking idiots. And the last I heard, that's not actually illegal. Unless, of course, what you're doing is physically endangering people. And, when I'm not seeing actual, violence being exuded towards another person and all that's happening is people are just talking, I don't really care. The point where I care is when they actually start trying to put what they're saying to action. Because now they're not a fucking idiot, they're dangerous. And they're not just talking. That's the thing. talking and thinking stupid things is your right, but not when it starts conflicting with the rights of other people to exist and so on and so forth. When you start using your beliefs as a justification to harm other people, well, that's where the line is drawn, and we need to nip that shit in the bud. Anyway, on to a little more pertinent issues here. I got this article here on thedailyhodl.com. Congressman's plea to ban Bitcoin in the U.S. validates BTC and crypto, says Anthony Pompliano. And this is authored May 13th, 2019 by the Daily Hodl staff. So no indication of genitalia. Continuing on. Anthony Pompliano thinks the United States Congressman Brad Sherman is right. Not about Sherman's recent call for U.S. government to, quote, outlaw cryptocurrencies. Pompliano said any such laws will be nearly, quote, impossible to enforce. The outspoken founder and partner of Morgan Creek Digital Assets does, however, think that Sherman's fears about the looming impacts of crypto are right on the money. Last week, Sherman, a California Democrat, called up his colleagues in Congress to, quote, draft a bill banning cryptocurrencies, which he believes could undermine the country's status as an economic powerhouse. I don't understand that philosophy anyway. Continuing, quote, clearing through the New York Fed is critical for major oil and other transactions, and it is the announced purpose of the supporters of cryptocurrency to take that power away from us and put us in a position where the most significant sanctions we have on Iran, for example, would become irrelevant. Actually, that's not our stated purpose, but it's not necessarily against the government itself, but the money. Quote, so whether it is to disempower our foreign policy, our tax collection enforcement, our traditional law enforcement, the purposes of cryptocurrency, the advantage it has over sovereign currency is solely to aid in the disempowerment of the United States and the rule of law. No, wrong. It's to enrich the participants of it. That's what it's meant for, Sherman. And if that places the power of the United States at a disadvantage, I don't care. Pompliano agrees. Quote, while many people will claim Brad Sherman doesn't know what he is talking about, I would argue that his statement highlights that the congressman knows exactly what is happening. He sees the increased probability that we are moving to a world where non-sovereign currencies are the default, and it sounds like he is scared. Mr. Sherman realizes that the United States and other countries with major currencies will lose considerable power if they are no longer in control. While his understanding of the technology's potential is accurate, it appears the congressman does not understand the improbability of being able to ban ownership of these decentralized digital currencies. And notice that he says digital currencies. He doesn't even say Bitcoin. In a blog post last week, Pompliano looked into Sherman's largest donors, which include financial services such as Allied Wallet, a payment processor for credit cards and e-commerce merchants. Quote, without digging too much, it is easy to see why Brad Sherman's top donors are likely to be the first companies disrupted when Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are successfully adopted on a global scale. Actually, they already have been, dude. Additionally, Congressman Sherman is worried that global superpowers will have no response to Bitcoin's decentralized, immutable, non-censorable, and non-seizable advantages. He quite literally states that cryptocurrencies have an advantage over sovereign currencies, which is the first time a politician has admitted this publicly, I believe. Pompliano actually sees Sherman's call for a crypto ban as a positive thing for Bitcoin and suggests that the dollar's lessening dominance will be a slow burn. He predicts that it will weaken over the next 15 to 20 years, facing a growing number of crypto experimentations from corporate challengers such as Facebook and JP Morgan, which are building their own digital assets. Quote, "In my opinion, this is an incredibly bullish development for Bitcoin. There are few better advertisements for digital currency than a current politician screaming about how unfair it is that Bitcoin is better than the US dollar. Rather than hurting the Bitcoin enthusiast's argument, Sherman is actually confirming its validity." Alright. And so now we have a relatively objective perspective on Sherman's issue with cryptocurrency. I can see how that... But, let me put some shit to rest. Right here and now. The United States is an industrial powerhouse. What we're making, widgets or cars or, screwdrivers or cryptocurrency miners, it doesn't really matter. We're really fucking good at making shit. And making it quickly and efficiently and with some quality behind the actual craftsmanship involved. The problem we've been experiencing has been that governments and banks, and mostly due to their relationship with governments and governments' relationship with banks, they've been intransigent in adopting cryptocurrencies appropriately. See, what we need to be doing, instead of talking about trying to ban them and trying to regulate them and trying to tax them, rather than all that stupid bullshit, what we need to be talking about is embracing them. Yeah, I know, fucking crazy, right? But we've got millions of square miles of surface that we could be doing all kinds of things with, and I'm not saying we should be doing it with all of it, but plenty of already populated areas can be greatly enhanced as far as how much electricity they're producing and how much they're consuming. See, I think we need to have a radical shift in the way that we think about energy. As far as I'm concerned, energy, electricity, such as we use it, should be as ubiquitous as oxygen or water. In the event that it were to be that available, a great many of the current disparities that we're experiencing would go away. And I think what will probably motivate it is a state's understanding of what cryptocurrencies are, what their total scope really is, and adopt them, or at least accept them. Come to terms with the situation as it really is, instead of how you want it to be, where you can secure things and down, and you can just lock it down, and you can put some guys with guns out there, and it's going to fix the situation. No. It's not going to fix the situation. And let me break that down for you. You put guys with guns out there, right? You put a global or a ban on it within your nation. You're not going to be able to, A, prevent people from cryptojacking the state, which they've already done, and I'm going to get into that here in a moment. And you're not going to be able to stop people outside of your control from doing it. So if it's still being done, and there are people within your borders that have a demand for it, they will get it. They'll buy it. They'll find a way to fucking buy it. And then all of your protectionism and all that is just gone to shit anyway. So the idea of clamping down on them and whatnot, get rid of that idea. Stupid fucking idea. What you need to be concerning yourself now with is, how do I get it happening here? Because we're talking about money, and we're talking about economic activity. And the more of that is, the richer you get, because the more people that can give you fucking kickbacks exist. Right now it's just banks and oil companies and so on and so forth. But it could be your next door neighbor could be a millionaire, and he might have some sort of interest that he wants you to represent up there in Washington, and he's willing to front you a few thousand or something like that to express his will on the floor of Congress. And see, that's the thing, Mr. Sherman, is that you're expressing the fears of your current benefactors without understanding that in the not so distant future, as in the next, at this rate I would say 1 to 3 years, you're going to have a great many more possible contributors to be giving to you. And I can understand playing hard to get and all that because you think you're going to get a higher price, but the thing is by then there's going to be people like me who are going to be running for Congress and the Senate who actually understand cryptocurrencies and actually understand what they can do for us as far as funding our campaign in ways that we can avoid a lot of the regulations that you, because you're dealing specifically in the legacy finance realm, can't do. We're going to have millions more fucking people participating in our campaign because we're going to be representing them. You're going to be representing bankers, which there are a lot fewer of, and we're going to be representing the miners, the exchange operators, the owners of cryptocurrency. And they're going to be telling us, get the fucking state off our back and out of our wallet. And we're going to say, sure, let's do it. Because a lot of us, being Americans and very big fans of the Constitution, a lot of us, we're going to adhere to that thing. And so organizations such as the CFTC and the DEA and the IRS, and they're just going to go away because they're not really constitutional anyway. Kind of illegal. Anyway, I wanted to get into that other thing with China. And if this is what I think it is, we've already seen this happen before, and it's going to continue to happen. And a thing to take note is that it's happening in China. And supposedly they have way better control of their civilization there in China than we do here in the United States. And oftentimes I hear and see things that lead me to believe that's entirely bullshit too. Anyway, this one's on the BitcoinExchangeGuide.com. Chinese authorities uncover fraudulent crypto mining scheme worth nearly $300 million US. This is by Carl T., authored May 12th, 2019. Chinese authorities were able to uncover a fraudulent mining scheme that stole approximately $293 million from crypto users. As reported by local news outlet 8BTC, a fake Chinese company called Liangxin Tech sold more than 300,000 units of mining hardware to users in just a few months. Investors believed they were going to make huge profits with these miners. Crypto mining fraud uncovered. There have been different cryptocurrency fraudulent schemes in the market in the last few years. One of them is related to crypto mining hardware. A Chinese company called Liangxin Tech is selling over 300,000 units of mining hardware to investors that were misled into thinking that they could make large sums of money with them. The company said that the users would be able to mine CAI coin and Filecoin, the two digital currencies that would have offered users the possibility to pay for their mining hardware in just a few days after starting mining activities. This was very promising for users since miners tend to recover the funds some months after purchasing the hardware devices. The CAI token was traded on a cryptocurrency exchange called AT, and the price of this digital asset experienced an important price surge from 0.5 RMB to 1.4 RMB, reaching highs of 2 RMB. Thus, the price increase of this token could have increased the interest of users in purchasing the CAI hardware. There is a recent report that shows that AT Exchange was controlled by Liangxin Tech, the company involved in the crypto mining fraud. The company manipulated the price of the CAI token in order to attract users with the price increase of the digital asset. Additionally, the CEO of the company created another firm called Shenzhen Bitmain Tech, but it's nothing related to the Bitcoin or the Bitmain company that everyone knows for producing the most popular crypto miners in the market. Additionally, the scammers were generating CAI tokens and the mining operations were not running. This is why an investor with the surname Zhao said that the fraudsters were able to steal 2 billion RMB by that time. Users had just some metal machines that was worth around 600 RMB and they had to pay 5,800 RMB for them. At the moment, the criminals had their passports invalidated and they were charged with fundraising and investment fraud. So no, this wasn't entirely what I thought it would be, but it's still kind of interesting nonetheless. I mean, China has got this reputation of being, the big producers of miners and all that. I think that in the longer term, though, we're going to see a greater shift to GPU mining. And it's because of things like this, where there's overpromises and just outright scams going on out there. See, I was hoping that this would be like another story that I had read, and I don't recall whether it was in Japan or China, that there was some guy who's mining, he was mining with government hardware, basically. He was using bandwidth and electricity at his work in a government office to mine Bitcoin. And see, I think that's really interesting, considering the fact that there's been so many talks about threatening Bitcoin mining in China, and the fact that they prove out to be basically just bullshit. But the fact remains that we do see some sort of, how should I say this, will to regulate, or a desire to regulate. Whether or not they can regulate has yet to be seen. They supposedly put a ban on ICOs or the sale of them, but people are still getting them anyway. I mean, they just go outside of China. I mean, so much of this has gone even beyond my expectations as far as the diffuseness of the interest, that there would be markets available that people would be able to exchange in, and coins that people are exchanging in I've never even heard of, man. And not amazing just because I haven't heard of them, because that happened in 2014 where there were just thousands of fucking coins, but that there continues to be new coins. And another thing I find really interesting about that is the lack of ads that I've been seeing for such. And it really seems like Twitter has narrowed their perspective that they allow people to see and whatnot quite a bit. I mean, I still see offerings for new coins and stuff, but nowhere near the way we did in 2015, 2016. I mean, I was finding shit on my feed for Mugatu coin. What the fuck is Mugatu coin? It doesn't even exist anymore, I don't think. But anyway, that's how frothy it was, by comparison to the way it is now. And I believe that that's due to their filtering and whatnot. And I guess Facebook is supposed to be letting up on their issues with allowing ads. And no, not that one. I was going to click on this story because I thought it was involving that, but it doesn't. Anyway, they had the same thing going on there, where there was all kinds of interest in cryptocurrencies, and there were people posting stuff for their cryptocurrency or their cryptocurrency mining software or so on and so forth. And I believe that's going to come back. I believe that we are going to head right up to that point where Bitcoin becomes too expensive for the average person to transact again, and we're going to see a shift into altcoins. And no amount of tweaking with the price adjustment on the fees, the fee estimators and whatnot, no amount of tweaking of those is going to account for it. That other currencies are just going to be that much cheaper to move. And as is the average price for a transaction fee for Bitcoin is back up over $2. And although I'm not seeing that in my feed, I believe that if it continues to go much higher, that price is going to get into a range where people are looking at it and they're like, fuck this. I can move the same amount of fucking Monero, or the same amount of money in Monero, for 1/100th of the cost that it would take for me to do it in Bitcoin. Why am I going to do it in Bitcoin? I'm not. I'm going to put it in a currency that I can use as cash. Because I can afford to transact it on chain without the need for a third party. The way that cryptocurrencies are designed to be used. Anyway, I got this article here on Fortune.com. It's kind of interesting. I think this bodes well for a lot of us that have been hodling in the dark for all this time. Bitcoin comes to Whole Foods, major retailers in coup for digital currency. Since its arrival 10 years ago, cryptocurrency has struggled to enter mainstream commerce. These could soon change thanks to a new initiative announced on Monday that will reportedly see big-name retailers including Crate and Barrel, Nordstrom, and Amazon-owned Whole Foods now accepting Bitcoin and 3 other types of digital money. The retail initiative comes via a partnership with Flexa, a payments startup, and Gemini, the WinXP-owned digital currency company. It works by piggybacking on the digital scanners that many big retailers use to accept phone-based payments from their apps and from digital wallets like Apple Pay. What Flexa has done is persuade the retailers, which also include Regal Cinemas, GameStop, and Baskin-Robbins, to configure their scanners to recognize payments from its cryptocurrency app, which it called Spendin. The customer simply holds up their app to pay. The store cashier will typically be unaware the customer is paying in crypto, while the merchant receives a real-time payment in the form of their choosing, crypto or dollars. I was initially skeptical. While the WinXP twins enjoy credibility in the Bitcoin realm, merchants have by and large shunned cryptocurrency because of its volatility and its popularity with cyber criminals. The app, however, appears to work as advertised. This week I tried it by downloading a test version of Spendin and transferring $10 worth of Bitcoin to it. Next, I went to a Baskin-Robbins in my neighborhood and bought a small coffee by scanning the app. It worked. Next, I went to Starbucks, another partner in the project but an unofficial one, and bought a banana. That worked too. In each case, the app adjusted the amount of Bitcoin in my wallet. The first widespread low-friction opportunity for consumers to shop with cryptocurrency. This is a potentially big deal. The Spendin app lets users spend 4 types of crypto: Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, and a so-called stablecoin called a Gemini dollar, which is pegged to the value of the US dollar and backed by banking giant State Street. This time it's different. Over the years, some merchants have tried accepting Bitcoin, but many eventually abandoned it, in part because of slow processing times on cryptocurrency networks. Meanwhile, for consumers, using cryptocurrency as an everyday payment mechanism has proved impractical because of crypto's volatility. A wallet with $100 worth of Bitcoin at the start of the week may only be worth $80 by week's end, or $500. But this time around, merchants may be more comfortable with offering crypto payments because the scanner system provides an easy way to accept them, and because Flexa offers a real-time network to clear the transactions. Gemini takes care of the back-end operations, and the merchant typically receives the cash equivalent of whatever crypto amount the consumer paid. According to Flexa CEO Tyler Spalding, the idea for merchants is a chance to lower the commission fees they pay to existing payment networks. Spalding, who is a veteran of the gift card exchange service Raise, added that crypto payments also offer stores a way to experiment with new types of blockchain-based customer rewards. Fortune contacted 6 of the retailers participating in the Flexus service, including Whole Foods, and none of them provided a comment. According to a person familiar with the project who spoke on condition of anonymity, the reason for the silence is because the crypto payments are still an experiment and retailers don't want to discuss them until they gain a better understanding of the technology and the consumer demand. On the consumer side, the Flexus system opens the door to an easy way to spend crypto at stores around town. This doesn't mean, though, that more than a handful of people will actually do this, especially given that other payment methods work perfectly well. But there is also the volatility issue. The value of Bitcoin in my Spend app has jumped around 5% today alone, which is fine for an investment, but not for day-to-day payment not for a day-to-day payment tool. I don't know why not, dude. You got 5% more to spend. What are you bitching about? According to the WinXP, the volatility problem can be mitigated by using the Gemini dollar. Yeah, they're fucking sucking the value out and putting it in their own fucking pocket, asshole. Which is pegged to keep its value close to $1 US dollar. Yeah, whatever. In an interview with Fortune, they predicted that Flex's ease of use combined with the stability of Gemini dollar will lead to more widespread use, especially among the growing number of people who appreciate the technology behind cryptocurrency. Yeah, in other words, blockchain. Yeah, in other words, they got lied to. Continuing. The idea of living on crypto is now a reality. You can do it. Shit, I've been doing it for fucking years, dude. Tyler Winklevoss. Yeah. Quote, for the consumer, it amounts to being crypto conscious. It's like being green. Meanwhile, Flex's Spalding told Fortune the company will provide developer kits to other companies that want to incorporate the scanner payment technology into their own apps. For now, it is too soon to say if the big merchants who signed on this week, other names include Petco, Lowe's, and Office Depot, will be taking the payments this time next year. But given the history of crypto payments, this week's announcement feels like a breakthrough. Not to me. Mostly because they haven't done the full Monty. When you are responsible enough to accept payments in cryptocurrencies, you will shun this fucking shit. Because these people will be having a hand in your pocket. And all of the freedom and all of the lack of friction that you would experience if you were just taking payments directly to your wallet goes away. Your ability to buy whenever you want or sell whenever you want goes away. You're now at the mercy of a third-party intermediary who may decide for some reason to, say, halt deposits or withdrawals like Binance. What's that going to do to your fucking company or your business when your retail outlet or your retail interface is taken away from you? Gemini is just another fucking exchange. And I believe it's only a matter of time before they are called to question with regard to their supposed stable coin. That at some point they will be made to account for the way that they actually adjust their prices. Because they will abuse that position. They will be taking too much of the volatility out of the market. You're not going to experience it for Bitcoin. The price for Bitcoin is going to become such that it's not going to be affordable to mine for a lot of people. And we'll be back here again. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into some music. But I think that in the longer term, these payment service providers are just going to choke. You know, because their services cost money. They have to be regulatory compliant. And that costs money. So invariably, their services to you will be more expensive than you using cryptocurrencies without them. But yeah, let's break down into some music. And as far as where to go, I want a little bit of Killing Joke. Loose Cannon. Here on Coin Metal. And that was Exodus with Open Season. And so next, I got this next one here on Forbes. Starbucks, Nordstrom, and Whole Foods now accept Bitcoin. Just don't ask them. And this is by Michael Del Castillo. So yes, penis. It is a freakishly hot May afternoon when Cameron Winklevoss decides to quench his thirst with a tall, cold-brewed coffee from Starbucks and, quote, just a little bit of cream to round it off. As he says, the temperature has shot up 20 degrees since the day before and is 20 degrees hotter than it will be the day after, too. With his twin brother, Tyler, a small entourage in tow, the 6'5" Cameron abruptly stands up from the proportionately giant boardroom table at the swanky New York offices of Gemini, the brothers' cryptocurrency exchange, and makes for the glass door in the glass wall that encloses the immeticulously shiny room. During a brisk 2-minute walk through the hip Gramercy Park neighborhood, Cameron passes 2 gyms before entering a Starbucks on the corner of Park Avenue South and 23rd Street, in the same building as the IMG modeling agency that represents Wonder Woman actress Gal Gadot, and the Spin Ping Pong Lounge owned by actress Susan Sarandon. Moving quickly past the chilled glass case holding the cookie dough cake pops dipped in melted milk chocolate and donut cake pops in strawberry frosting topped with giant rainbow sprinkles, he approaches a counter with an infrared Honeywell scanner that sits sandwiched between bunches of ripe bananas and Starbucks brand sugar-free chewing gum. As the song, quote, Work by Rihanna blurs through the coffee shop speakers, Cameron orders the small cold brewed coffee he'd been craving and takes out his phone. He brings up the beta version of a new app called Spendin', built by little-known payments startup Flexa, and waves a QR code in front of the Honeywell scanner, paying for the drink with a cryptocurrency he and his brother invented that's powered by the Ethereum blockchain. In some corners of the world, what just happened would be considered historic. He turns around like a proud father and smiles. Quote, We're finally realizing the promise of crypto and payments, says Cameron. Quote, It's been a long time, but as you've seen for yourself, we're here. It's a total win for the merchants. The transaction was effectively free. And actually, that's not true. The problem is, Starbucks, along with every one of a huge group of giant enterprises now accepting cryptocurrency as payment, seems to be having trouble admitting what they're doing. As a photograph of the receipt for the transaction was taken, one member of the Winklevoss entourage recommended that Cameron cover up the Starbucks logo with his thumb. Quote, They're not participating in the first announcement, she reminded Cameron. In the days that followed, neither Gemini, which is custodying the cryptocurrency, nor Flexa, the company that built the app, signed up the enterprises participating in today's launch, were able to get any of their own clients to confirm via email, yet alone talk on the record. Nevertheless, all evidence points to the fact that as of today, some of the largest and best-known companies in the world are now accepting Bitcoin, Ether, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, Zcash, and the Gemini dollar, a cryptocurrency backed by real US dollars stored in a State Street account and built on top of the public Ethereum blockchain. Receipts provided to Forbes from a few hundred of the beta app testers confirmed that crypto purchases were made at GameStop, Bed Bath & Beyond, and Whole Foods. Emails from Barnes & Noble, Office Depot, and Nordstrom were also provided by Flexa to confirm the store's participation in the project. In total, 89% of the beta users spent cryptocurrency at least one of the locations announced today, according to Flexa data, with 81% of those spending multiple times at more than one location. Companies now officially accepting these cryptocurrencies, according to Flexa, are Barnes & Noble, Baskin-Robbins, Bed Bath & Beyond, Caribou Coffee, Crate & Barrel, Express, GameStop, Jamba Juice, Lowe's, Nordstrom, Office Depot, and Office Max, Petco, blah, 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 Amazon owned, and of course, there's Starbucks. In spite of not being part of the official launch, in total, nearly 100 stores are expected to start accepting Bitcoin and the other cryptocurrencies via the Spendin app by the end of the year. Quote, "The crypto industry has historically overpromised and underdelivered," says that's bullshit. And this is one of the first times we're actually delivering on the spend use case of your crypto. Yeah, that's bullshit. Ever since the invention of the fucking the SPC wallet, I think that's what is it? Single point confirmation, or SPC. Ever since the invention of the Electrum-based wallet, we've been able to do zero confirmation transactions that would do everything that this bullshit promises at no additional cost over the mining fee itself. Continuing. To be perfectly clear, this is a big deal for an industry born in anonymity and mystery, grown by crypto anarchists and tested in the fires of black markets in the dark corners of the deep web. This is the beginning of a new phase of mainstream acceptance. Actually, it isn't. But also, to be clear, none of the companies have independently confirmed that they are accepting cryptocurrency. In spite of Cameron's purchase, Starbucks, the only company that responded to our requests, claimed they are not working with Gemini or Flexa. One of the possible reasons is that in August 2018, Starbucks announced that it was a founding partner of a competing cryptocurrency exchange, Bakkt, and would help the New York Stock Exchange spin-off convert digital assets into US dollars for acceptance as payment at their stores. So how is Flexa already letting Cameron Winklevoss pay for that Starbucks coffee with crypto, and how are the 15 other enterprises also doing so? First, users need to download the app from the Apple App Store, then send their asset of choice from any cryptocurrency wallet. While Gemini custodies the crypto funds, Spendin takes care of the payment itself by generating a one-time QR on the phone's screen, which is scanned by the participating store's existing scanner, debiting the amount charged from the customer's account, while the customer gets a receipt showing the purchase as a gift card. Spendin settles the payment with the merchant in the preferred currency at a later date. There are two main reasons why these merchants might want to use a product like Flexa, according to its CEO, Tyler Spalding, or competitors such as BitPay, Coinbase, or CirclePay. The last two of which have their own stablecoin, called USD Coin, USDC. The first is because cryptocurrency transactions are permanent. They give Spendin the certainty it needs to decline requests that funds be returned, a process called chargebacks. Consulting firm Javelin Strategy estimates that chargebacks cost merchants $31 billion in 2017. We have a verified irreversible payment, says Spalding 39, which is not possible using any other kind of method. Spalding, a former NASA researcher and director at Lockheed Martin Space Systems, says the second benefit to merchants is that it only costs his company about 4 cents, quote, to process any payment of any size, with the average interchange fees in 2017 ranging between 22 and 52 cents, depending on the transaction value and the percent fee. According to U.S. Federal Reserve Bank data, there's plenty of room to negotiate and still turn a profit. For larger transactions, the profit for Flexa could be massive, and so could the savings for merchants. Quote, whenever they're paying now, we want to go lower than that, says Spalding. To give an idea of what's at stake, $5.93 trillion in additional credit card payments resulted in $88.39 billion in fees in the U.S. alone, according to a 2017 Nielsen report. Spalding was first inspired to Bitcoin payments as a result of Game of 7 in the 2016 World Series between Cleveland Indians and his beloved Chicago Cubs. It had been 106 years since the Cubs had won a World Series, and 40 million viewers tuned in to watch the game on television. Tickets to the game were selling for as much as $50,000 a pair, with worries over fraud rampant. A lifelong Cubs fan who grew up in Chicago, Spalding with his wife flew to Cleveland to watch the season-clinching historic game. At the time, Spalding was the chief technical officer of gift card startup Raise and was already familiar with alternative means of payment. So when he found a season ticket holder willing to sell 2 tickets for $10,000 worth of Bitcoin, he wasn't surprised and jumped at the chance. Quote, "This was a very high value, very risky transaction, and this person is saying, no, I want crypto," says Spalding. Quote, "It was perfect. A Chicago Cubs victory, and 2 years later, he co-founded Flexa." Spendin is the first app powered by the Flexa network, an Ethereum-based payments network similar to Visa or MasterCard, but for spending cryptocurrency. To build on the network, Spendin and others are required to lock up its native FlexiCoin cryptocurrency as collateral. The apps need to pledge within the network to allow their apps to spend, says Spalding. Oh, okay, so that's another friction point where your profit and the appreciation of your coin can be spent out from under you. Continuing. In addition to giving builders across the access to the network, the token was sold to Pantera Capital and others to raise $14.1 million in a private initial coin offering to pay for development and compensate founders, among other users. I bet that was 100% legal according to the SEC. About 15% of the total coins in existence were sold during an ICO, which valued the company at around $80 million at the time. Over the week before today's announcement, the price of FlexiCoin actually dropped 30% to 0.0053 cents, according to a price site CoinGecko, but over the past 30 days it increased 108%. While today's crop of giant well-known companies accepting the Spendin app is certainly the largest, highest profile group to ever accept cryptocurrency, they are not the first. In fact, this is really the latest in a second wave of companies to do so. Early in the history of Bitcoin, a number of high-profile companies, including CheapAir, Microsoft, Overstock.com, Reddit, and Expedia, started accepting cryptocurrency. Venture-backed OpenBazaar is an online market that lets its vendors accept a wide range of cryptocurrencies as payments for goods. But in 2018, as the price of Bitcoin collapsed from $19,000 to $5,000, Expedia, Reddit, and a flurry of other companies stopped accepting the cryptocurrency, citing lack of interest due to price volatility. The mantra at the time was HODL, a misspelling of the word hold, meaning not to sell or spend cryptocurrency. The app's name, Spendin, derived from spend, is a play on this mantra. One big difference between the first generation of companies accepting cryptocurrency and those announced today is the relatively recent invention of stablecoins like Gemini Dollar and USD Coin, which give users the benefits of crypto without the risk of fluctuating prices. That's bullshit. Quote, "One day, our dream is one day to allow any coin to be spent at any merchant," says Flexit co-founder Treva Filter, 29, not just in the US, but across the entire world. That's really neat, but if I can do it much cheaper without needing to involve you at all, I'm not going to involve you at all. Especially because you're most likely going to be a flex point where things like taxation and fees are applied to me that would not exist in another transaction with another vendor. Yeah. What these people don't understand is that the competition that they're wishing to initiate and participate in, it's not limited to them. They're already competing against Bitcoin transacted on-chain from an on-chain wallet. I can almost guarantee that at some point or another they're using some Lightning or somebody's just fronting the money. But either way, somebody in the chain of custody here is going to get wrecked. It's not an if, it's a when. You know, the fact of the matter is that they're fucking with the exchange rate between a non-existent coin, the US dollar or other fiat currency, and Bitcoin, one that had real-world inputs put into mining it. And although some people are willing to accept an initial loss on the investment of having mined it, not everybody is going to participate in that. You know, it might be real cheap for Fidelity to be using their own coin, but it will have cost them money at one point or another to mine that cryptocurrency. And that's money that they'll be needing to make back, you know. It's not a cost that they can just write off and say, oh, well, you know, fuck that. Bunch of bullshit. Wasn't really important. But I think the lesson to be learned here is that these people aren't going to stop until they're wrecked. You know, they insist on competing with you directly, and there are much fewer of them than there are of you, even within the cryptosphere. If you were to take all of the participants that currently hold or are transacting or trading cryptocurrencies, and you compare them to the number of institutional investors and institutional entities that are interested in cryptocurrencies, we outnumber them by a significant margin. And our interests are far larger and cumulative than theirs. So yeah, I expect that the mentality that they're dealing with right now it's kind of an old thing. And I came across this article, and I don't know if it's going to address what I'm wanting to kind of convey here fully, but I think it does something to address it. And but it is an older article. This is on October 25th, 2018 at 11:13 a.m. EDT. This is by Lee Rainiers. It's on AmericanBanker.com. BankThink: The Problems with Crypto's Revolving Door. An earlier version of this post was published on Duke's FinReg blog. It has been condensed and lightly edited for clarity. Ask any cryptocurrency company what its biggest challenge is, and they'll tell you legal and regulatory issues. The legal and regulatory environment surrounding cryptocurrency is complex, uncertain, and changing by the day. In the U.S., no one agency has sole jurisdiction over any cryptocurrency, and different agencies have varied interpretation on what cryptocurrency is, largely reflecting the agency's statutory mandate, i.e. their bias. It looks like a rhino to them, so they treat it like a rhino. Successfully navigating this complex web of regulation is extraordinarily difficult and costly for startups, especially those founded by technologists with no previous experience in the financial services industry. And also, because what they're doing doesn't require them to have any knowledge of the financial services industry, and what they're doing doesn't actually require any of the regulation that's involved in the financial services industry, that's why they're ignorant of it. Because it's just introducing bullshit costs that they ordinarily wouldn't have to entertain. Anyway, continuing. Given this challenge, it is understandable why many cryptocurrency firms have turned to former top regulators for assistance. To highlight this point, I created the following table identifying several former high-level regulators and the cryptocurrency firms they are currently working for as either director or advisor. This list is by no means exhaustive, and it excludes former prosecutors and less senior regulators. Nevertheless, it highlights an emerging trend. Joining the ranks, a number of former regulators are now advisors or directors at crypto firms. Larry Summers, Treasury, advisor at Zappo. And yeah, he was involved in, I think it was the SNL scandal. Anyway, continuing. Arthur Levitt, SEC, director at OmniX, BitPay. Sheila Bair, FDIC, advisor to OmniX, director at Paxos. Ben Losky, NYDFS, director at Ripple. Gosh, I wonder why they got a fucking bit license. Fuckers. Juan Zarate, Treasury, Director at Coinbase. Raj Date, CFPB, Director at Circle. Mark Wetjen, CFTC, Director at LedgerX. Bart Chilton, CFTC, Advisor at Omega One. Former top regulators serving as advisors or directors at regulated financial services firms is nothing new. So, what should we make of the revolving door's inevitable appearance in the cryptocurrency industry? For starters, there are clear differences between the two sectors. As previously mentioned, the cryptocurrency regulatory landscape is rapidly evolving, and most firms operating in this space need help understanding and complying with the rules and regulations applicable to their business. Actually, no, they can just ignore most of them because they don't actually apply to their business. Contrast this with the financial services industry, where the rules and regulations are firmly established and large firms have sufficient resources on hand to comply. When a large financial firm appoints an ex-regulator to its board, it's likely trying to change regulation in some way, obtain regulatory forbearance, or repair a damaged reputation. Such in the case with Ripple and Ben Losky, although Ben Losky's got a shitty fucking reputation with us to begin with because he's the one that introduced BitLicense and fucked New York, turned it into a goddamn digital gulag for cryptocurrency. Continuing. This does not mean that cryptocurrency firms aren't trying to influence how they are regulated. They too engage in lobbying and advocacy on their own behalf and through trade associations like Coin Center. By appointing former regulators to the board or as advisors, these firms may also be trying to shape the future path of regulation. However, the cryptocurrency industry in the U.S. is small, and these firms don't have the financial resources or political clout to make meaningful inroads on Capitol Hill and inside regulatory agencies. Also, most of the former regulators in the above table were not directly involved in regulating the cryptocurrency industry because the industry had yet to develop, or the regulator's agency did not have jurisdiction, in which they still don't, which may limit their ability to influence current regulators. While cryptocurrency firms may benefit from the knowledge and expertise of former regulators serving as directors or advisors, the primary factor motivating these appointments is often a desire for legitimacy, and this is where the comparison to the traditional Washington Wall Street revolving door breaks down. Unlike cryptocurrency firms, few people question the underlying utility or purpose of a bank, and there is broad recognition that financial intermediaries are necessary to facilitate the flow of credit and help grow the economy. Furthermore, the presence of one or more ex-regulators on the large financial institution board of directors is unlikely to influence the willingness of customers and counterparties to engage with that institution. The cryptocurrency industry, on the other hand, operates under considerable suspicion by the general public and esteemed financial minds. Actually, it's the opposite. I'll tell you something, and I just wanted to point this out, that while I was using the one Bitcoin ATM in town, I noticed that all of the people going to that Bitcoin ATM were either poor or were poor until they discovered cryptocurrencies. I did not see any white shoe boys going up to that motherfucking ATM. Continuing on. Even those who disagree with Buffett and Diamond may be unwilling to purchase cryptocurrency due to its volatility and concerns that their cryptocurrency may be stolen. In July, the Wall Street Journal reported that since 2001, there's been 56 cyber attacks directed at cryptocurrency exchanges that have resulted in $1.63 billion in losses. How could they go since 2001? We haven't been in operation. We haven't had any fucking exchanges in that long. I think, Bitcoin wasn't even out until 2009. I bet this is a typo. It's 2011. Anyway, continuing on. At the moment, cryptocurrency firms compete in a crowded marketplace for a limited number of customers with little to differentiate one from the other. One way to stand out among competition, grow market share, and attract investors is to appear to be well managed and well governed, thereby making the firm more trustworthy in the eyes of potential customers and investors. But trust is typically earned over time after long periods of positive, without incident performance. And it's right there where we're going to cut it off on this article. You know, they did briefly tap on the one important thing, and that's that the reason why people like you and I and the poor people that I was noting going up to that ATM, the reason why they value cryptocurrencies, the reason why anyone has been the fact that they are able to participate in them without the need to ask permission from anybody. Not spending, not R3, not the Winklevi, not the SEC, not the U.S. government. Nobody. And these friction points that these entities are wanting to introduce, because they are not actually necessary, I believe, they will simply go away. It did not take Superman to invent fucking Bitcoin. Bitcoin happened for a very specific reason. And it happened because with all of the economic activity going on out there, less and less was involving more and more of us. And that trend has continued since the invention of Bitcoin. It's why our numbers grow and rank. And why we will eventually overcome the system. Because there are far more of us than there are of them. And it is with that I'd like to close out this episode. We will be back again on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So until then, I'd like y'all to trade safe. Do your homework. And watch out for your own bunghole, because nobody else is going to do it for you. And additionally, I may be on Radio Underground tomorrow from 8 to 10 p.m., I believe. I'm not entirely certain what's going on there, so don't be terribly disappointed if it doesn't happen. But if it does, I will be putting up notifications in my Twitter, on my Facebook, in the Discord for Verge, and also in the Telegram for Verge. So yeah, I will fully notify you. And so yeah, as far as our last dance is concerned, as normal, I have not picked anything out, but I think that a little bit of Helmet is due. And so here it is. Unsung Last Dance here on Coin Metal. Thank you very, very much for listening. I certainly do appreciate the support. Until Wednesday, y'all have an excellent evening. Good night.